Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us for this next edition of Safe Conversations. Paul, welcome back.
Yeah, good to be back.
And we are discussing the topic of relationships. And last time we began, let's jump right in, by the way.
Don't waste time.
Don't waste any time. Well, we were talking about how even at the early stages of life, we develop. We're developing our skills for relationships, and
Yes.
there was a lot there that would, I think, for parents. I thought there's some good stuff in this last episode for parents, particularly with toddlers at home. But also, I think, Paul, it helps as we kind of reflect on ourselves. It helps us understand ourselves better when we have these
Yes.
conversations.
Yeah, and I would say that correct self-understanding, meaning from my birth to 63, what developed me and shaped me into the person I am, is one of the best things I can do to be in relationships. I kind of mentioned that last time.
Yeah, you talked about the
It's
map.
autobiographical memory is what it is. So I need to, if someone out there says, gosh, I don't remember my childhood, I wouldn't automatically think, gosh, something horrible happened. But I would go check that out. That's a whole lot of memory not to have.
Yeah.
There's some good reason in your little brain that that's not remembered. But to have not a perfect memory, obviously, of every day, the brain doesn't do memory that way, but to have that autobiographical narrative, when I see a person, say they're 35, I'm not thinking of the last 5 years of their life. As a caregiver or a professional, I'm thinking the context of their whole life. And if people could grasp that, that would help them in relationships.
Yeah.
I'm relating to someone based on their whole life, that early
That's
template. Have they changed it? Are they even aware that it's there? Because if I'm a person who has an avoidant or an anxious attachment style, there's also a mix that people, when they look at that, but we usually say anxious and avoidant, and it's not secure. As an adult, I have not had a healthy history. I have been hurt in some ways, and now I'm learning to be healthy. And how can you do that without help?
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's friends or therapists or pastors or whoever.
And wouldn't it be accurate to say that as I develop, or as a person develops a greater self-understanding of where, where they've been, why they are who they are, then I would think, Paul, that helps me be more empathetic
Yes.
to the person I'm relating to, because if I'm understanding I've got this history and I can understand they have a history,
Yes.
maybe I can be more empathetic to their, weaknesses, shortcomings.
Yeah, it creates a relationship bridge.
Good.
And what's so hopeful to me about what neurology, the neurologists, the ones studying the brain, are learning today is the brain continues to develop and learn. That's a shock compared to what we thought was going on decades ago. We kind of thought it got to a certain point and stopped. Now we know, and they call it plasticity, meaning the brain is pliable, can shape. So I can literally, this happened to me personally, I have a anxious attachment style. If people looked at some of those resources we suggested last time, they can see the difference in the style. I married a person with a secure attachment style, and I have what they call today in counseling and psychology an earned secure attachment now. My wife has helped me become securely attached, more so. I don't know if I'll ever be a fully secured attached. And it's really helped my relationship to people and my relationship to God and my relationship to myself.
Yeah.
All those.
Oh, that's great. Well, Paul, can we talk a little bit about adolescence? And the reason the shift comes there, wherever that age is, there comes a point in every a young person's life when they're, primarily with mom and dad, and that's kind of where they spend their time. And then
Yes.
as they come into adolescence, it seems like there's a shift happening,
Mm-hmm.
and more they're turning to their peers.
Mm-hmm.
And so this idea of relationships are really important because this
Yes.
is the peer pressure and the fitting
Yes.
in and all of that. So
Mm-hmm.
can we talk a little bit about that adolescent brain?
Yeah,
And what's
sure.
going on? Is there...
Well, the adolescent brain is going through something very unusual in a hormonal growth sense. It's like the infant's brain in comparison, not the exact representation of the infant's brain, but the amount of change that goes on in the child's brain in a few years it's just astronomical. For instance, a child goes from very few words at 1 and 2 to 300 at least by age 3-ish or so. I mean, how many of us add 300 words in a year? I mean, just exampling of what the brain's doing.
Right.
Much less language use and mobility and all that. So the teen is having a rebirth in the brain. And it's built on a foundation of attachment style. So if you've got an avoidant attachment style in a teen, that would be good to know. And I would encourage the parents when they're trying to figure that out to push against the shame and, gosh, we messed them up or whatever. That's not going to help right at that point. Yeah. We did, it impacted them. Now what can we do? And we can do repair work with that. But that avoidant is going to express themselves relationally in an avoidant way with this massive brain shift that's going on. A more anxious style is going to express themselves in that way. They've already got a map. You really can't veer from the map. You can fake it for a day or two. The map, the only reason I can help people is the map that they learned is still active. It's predictable. I mean, research says that.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a relief to go, gosh, there are just a limited number of styles. And I mean, they're not 7,000 I have to work with. They're like basically 4. The securely attached is the one that they're not necessarily the good kid. They're actually the one that would have parents would kind of needle their parents with questions because it's okay. Yeah. If it's safe, if I can trust them and it's safe, I can go. Why do I believe the Bible? And really what they're doing is they are having a thought that's different than their parents. They may not be shifting at all. So at times, those type things from a secure attachment. Now, you can have that from the other attachment styles too, but the avoidant is going to not engage people as well. They're going to disengage from their emotions. They're going to be up in their head. They're going to be in the working fields, engineering type people and those, no knock to them, but that attracts that type, or astrophysicists, the things that I don't have a skill set in at all.
So, excuse me, but if adolescents are carrying attachment styles with them into their relationships, their attachment style, is it fully developed at that time? And when does it develop? And is there a particular time when we need, as if possible as parents, that we're aware that this is a crucial time?
Yeah, the crucial time, we can impact a person anytime. But when we talk about critical periods of development, those first 5-6 years, and I'm going to say somebody's name that back in the day when I was a Christian doing psychology was like, would really get you beat up. That's what Freud said a long time ago. He developmentally believed there were these massive shifts that were going on very young. Piaget was a developmentalist who would have said similar things to that there are these shifts. It can all be repaired and it can be reshaped, but I think under stress, I'm going to defer to my old attachment style of anxious. I think an avoidant would do that. And I think the maturing in Christ, becoming somebody that I'm not, following a leader and a teacher, a God, all those things, is what we would teach in Christianity. I would say that healing precedes growing. So if I have an adult and they're carrying their woundedness, their maturation is going to be they're going to make a lot more progress as the healing happens. Because I'm going to tell you, God wants us to be securely attached to him. And
Agreed.
I think all of the family stuff and the experiences have the potential to move a person even before they can understand God in that direction.
All right. Well, so somebody watching right now says they got a 14, 15-year-old that seems to be struggling with relationships. I don't know, is, like you say, maybe the avoidant, maybe they're shy, they can't really connect. Can we talk a little bit about what's going on in their mind that makes it difficult for them in their relationships, or even, hey, here's some things that they can do that's very helpful?
Yes. Yeah, to talk about the setting that they're in, they're no longer in just this relationship to the parents or if they're siblings or extended family. And they don't just start that at 13. You know, there are preteens and children are in school, and so we socialize children that way. And that's why we have a teen process like we do. Historically in the East, it doesn't look like a teen process like we have. Bar mitzvah is what, 12-ish?
13.
Yeah, 13. You're there you go. You're adult now.
Yeah.
Well, we have a teen period, and so they're gradually have this other source of influence, but it's based on the template. So if I'm securely attached, that's not who you mentioned, but if I'm securely attached, home is a safe base. I mean, a safe harbor. It's a secure base. If I don't have that, then this pressure out here can be overwhelming if I'm not sure about that. So if I've got a 14-year-old and they're a little avoidant or a little anxious, they are trying to, how do I be who I am, which is they won't know they're avoidant. I still try to explain this to teens, and that doesn't make a lot of sense to them.
Yeah.
But they are going at relationships a certain way. And so I would say for the parents to repair whatever, whether it's a 14-year-old anxious or avoidant, to repair whatever can be repaired to be a safe base is going to help the child in their teen relationships. Now that's a bigger step than just the teen needs to learn communication skills.
Yeah, that's bigger.
Or relationship skills, conflict resolution stuff.
Any advice to the parent on how, generally speaking, how do you make home a safe place?
Well, you own that it hasn't been as safe as it has needed to be. Now, that doesn't mean the teen's going to go, man, now I've got that attachment style thing down. I'm good.
Yeah.
If home's not safe, and I just need to say this, there is no perfectly safe home.
Yeah.
There's no perfectly functional parent. We're all becoming like Jesus, and I mean that growing, processing, sins there, all that stuff. So take the pressure off of, that battle with, gosh, did I get all this right? But I would begin to attempt to do things, simple things like more intentional about trying to connect with my teen. So if that's hey, you want to go get a Coke, and the teen's at that age, that's not abhorrent, because their friends will see you or whatever.
Yeah,
or if it's my son and I don't know that I actually liked video games. Now, my son's like mid-30s now. But I played video games. And it didn't feel like a lot of relating was going on, but that was kind of the window I was given. So I stepped into that. And the parent will need to be aware that every avenue they try, they've got to have a little endurance. May not work,
That's good.
but where can I find common ground? And is there an opportunity to repair? Because the kids may not want you talking about whatever it was that you
Well,
did.
I think that was really wise to talk about just the window of opportunity, being willing to step through whatever they give you there. You know, an alarming, and I'm tying this a little bit together. I think an alarming trend is the teen suicide and the younger. It's been an issue for quite some time. I don't have all the stats on whether it's growing or not. Still a serious problem. What is alarming me is the age
Yes.
that students are contemplating or going through a suicide. Does this relate a little bit somehow?
Yeah, it does. The other group of teens that you didn't mention are the ones who are shooting others. Those are both cries for help. I think it's easier to have a little more compassion on the ones who's thinking about harming themselves. These other kids, if you've followed some of that, they'll talk about whether it's bullying or low self-esteem or family. They'll talk about those things. When someone gets to the place that they are suicidal, they have been, for the most part, hurting for a long time. Because suicide, let me give one of the ways I understand it. I believe that suicide has to do with wanting relief in a general sense. And when I can't get relief, if you think of an electric stove with a red hot eyelet, your hands on it, and you cannot get it off, and you realize you're trying and I can't get it off. Now, I have been there myself personally and had ways to manage that. But I would say to those that are listening, if they're there, because they may be the ones listening, that living literally can be painful itself. If you can imagine just living, that hurts you in an emotional sense. So I think before these people ever get there, whether they're a child, teen, or whatever, they have had a lot of pain. Now, there are always exceptions to that. I know that there are these pack suicides that people have that looks like it's a very cognitive decision, or I'm going to push against this thing, so I'll just do this. The problem with teen suicide is the adult brain does not mature till 25. We thought it was earlier, till 25. Now, one characteristic of the teen is not connecting real consequences to their behavior. That's just where the brain is. They don't fully. We can shout at them, scream at them, whatever, but they don't connect that. And that's going to have to develop, and that can be developed. They also are joyously compulsive, which means as an adult, I can have a bad day, but I'm not going to kill myself. But if they have a bad day and they've got this attachment stuff going on and there's a lot of difficulties and not support, there can be a compulsive reaction at times. That's very, very, very sad. And I wonder if it wouldn't be, if we couldn't post after this, just my own thought of like the suicide hotline or something. Just in, I don't want anyone harming themselves. I want them to know
absolutely not.
there is hope and there's a way to get through stuff.
If I could just ask one other question in the adolescence area with relationships. So my experience has been that age group seems to succumb or to peer pressure. And so what is it about that development age when in relationships where they give so much value to what other people think? Is there some development in the brain that a parent will recognize that that's what's going on? What's happening there?
Yeah, I would just tell parents it's very predictable that the kids, the children starting back in middle school, it'll be before that, but they're already developing athletic groups and friends. I know with the kids, the parents I'm around with kids that age, there's just tons of social activity going on. And what is going on at that point is that they are moving very naturally into I'm going to step out of mom and dad's boat a little bit, and I'm going to try my own little boat over here. That's where the safe haven, secure base is helpful. But not everybody's going to have that. And if someone's listening that they're doing adoption or foster parenting, of course, I hope you know kind of the history because that will help you, but you may not have any way of repairing that personally. So they're already moving kind of this flow to these relationships. And the brain is literally encouraging a type of independence if the child has not been damaged. And I really think there is a huge, I wouldn't have wanted to have heard this as a parent, but I think there's a huge margin of error with teens that they're gonna make errors, and it's a huge margin of that because of the complexity and just the huge impact some of their decisions are. So when people get shocked that my kid smoked weed, I'm going like, welcome to teens, man. I'm not saying they shouldn't attempt to teach morality or teach those things. The kid themselves is so bombarded with so many things. And the more securely attached has a little better going because they really are the ones that kind of go, I'm secure enough. I don't think I want to do that. But they're also, Fred, in the midst of this, they are literally trying to tether themselves to other relationships than just mom and dad. They'd really prefer to kind of do both, but they strain the one with the parents. I mean, when I do work with teens and all, it is real challenging because logic does not work always at that point. Like, you keep doing that, they're going to take your bed and your chest of drawers out and you're going to be sleeping on the floor. I don't care, man. And they're out the window the next night. I do tell those teens, if you're a teen and you're listening, there can come a point, and I want to be very sensitive to you as a teen, but there can come a point in your life that your parents are not able to manage you and you have to go to the next level to be managed, which can be juvie court or some type of residential treatment. There is a limit on given everything humanly about a parent that you're going, what else do I do? And then I would say to the teen, it's a sad thing, but God, your choices really are going to determine where you're going. So there is a need for responsibility with that.
Good. Well, so talking about relationships and, we've talked a little bit about early childhood, now adolescence, and maybe next time we can take a few minutes and begin to explore kind of the adult life and the relationships, sure. And there's so much there to talk about. So again, thank you everyone for joining us for Safe Conversations, and we will see you next time.